If you can hear me, Andy, I see, looks like you're muted.
Yeah, I'm here, Glenn. How you doing?
I'm doing well.
I'm curious as to whether anybody's having any intermittent internet connection issues, things like that.
Well,
Nope.
our dear planner, Caitlin Sullivan, had to call in on her cell phone because she lost the internet connection to her house, apparently, shortly after, about 5 minutes ago.
I'm good so far.
Yep, and so far.
I'm on the phone though. I can hear you all.
Yep.
Thanks. I'm just trying to get a sense of how well things are working because obviously our intent here is to try to get people back online with these meetings and hearings, but that's only as good as the internet connections are, obviously.
Yeah. Are you displaying anything, Andy?
Yeah, I'll pull up the agenda in just a second.
Okay.
Caitlin, do you also have the documents that have been submitted for this application tonight, or these applications?
Do I have the document?
Yeah, the for the various files.
I have them on my home computer. Do you need me to show them?
Well, it might be helpful for you as a backup. The only reason I say that is for some reason, one of the documents has not downloaded yet, and it's been, it just seems to be sort of slowly happening, and I don't really know why, but I did start it earlier, but it just seems to be sitting there.
All right, well, as soon as I can get back on to my computer, otherwise I don't know quite how to show them via my iPhone.
Andy, this is Lisa.
Hi.
I have the two application packages that we submitted.
Okay. Thank you.
You might have your video on, Andy, but with your camera covered up. We just see the sort of a.
Oh yeah, I actually think it's a good idea not to be using the videos because I think it's causing some of the data connection issues. And I think I might have mentioned this to you, but I'm going to be reaching out to all the chairs to recommend that nobody use them and that we use only the graphics for the plans and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, you've just been replaced by the seal of the city, so that's fine. Another question, Andy, how do you plan to, there are some folks on the call that have not identified themselves in any way. Is that a non-issue or?
Yeah, I mean, we're not required to identify every person who wants to listen to the meeting, obviously, just the folks who are on the board and then obviously applicants as they're speaking and so forth, and if there's any public comment, but we don't have to spend the time to identify everybody who's here.
Okay.
All right, Andy, so I was able to get back on my connection. What is the application that you're having trouble showing?
The 35 Oakland application. I have the one of the attachments, the first one from the web or the from the website, but the second one for some reason is just taking a really long time.
What happened?
Andy, as people join with video, like the person that just joined, looks like Eileen Graff, can you just disable the video or do we have to ask them to turn it off? Oh, she just turned it off.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can cue those.
So you do have control over that?
Yep.
Okay. Seeing the agenda. Is that you, Andy, or Caitlin?
That's me, yeah.
Okay.
Just another couple minutes. I just want to make sure we've cleared 7 p.m. before the board starts up. Obviously, I think you'll want to do a roll call at the beginning just to make sure we know who's here.
Yep. And the commissioners are all here except Malcolm, or at least the ones we're expecting are here except Malcolm. And I am expecting him to either call in or attend or something. I have been in touch with him a couple of times today. So we'll see how that works out. But I believe we have a quorum even without him. Right. Me, Ron, Chris, Patricia, at least that. So.
Andy, this is Lisa. Will you be using the raise your hand function or just the polite pause?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I actually was going to suggest that folks just indicate in the chat box when they're interested in speaking on an application.
Okay.
We are next week going to be switching to the webinar format and using the actual hand icons.
Okay.
Andy, this is Ron. Where's the chat box?
Oh, you should see, if you go to the bottom of your screen, are you on a computer?
I'm on my phone with the, I'm on both the phone and the iPad, but I have the February 13, I'm sorry, the documents that were sent on my iPad so I can read them more easily. And I have, right now, I have the meeting agenda on my phone.
Ron, down the bottom, there should be a button or something there that says chat.
Right.
My screen is at the bottom of the screen.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
Yeah, there's a chat box. I guess the question is, which device are you using to connect to the meeting? And then from there, we can tell you how to navigate to the buttons.
All right.
Tom Coulter, John, 64 Federal Street.
Joined the meeting.
I found the chat box.
Okay. Okay.
All right, we're past 7. I don't know if Glenn, if you feel like if we're all set to start or not. If so, I'll leave it to you.
Yep, I'm gonna wait till one of my thing flips over to 7:02. Let's kick it
Sure.
off. Now you're already recording, Andy.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Do you have anything that you need to say as preamble, or should I just conduct?
Yeah,
like
if that's all
regular?
right. I realize that these, thank you, Glenn. I realize that these online meetings are new for everybody. So anybody in the audience who's participating who isn't a board member and it's sort of new for them, we're doing online hearings or meetings. We're going to be shifting our format. It's obviously a little bit different for everybody, but we're using the Zoom platform, and we've been upgrading to improve our management of public meetings, especially since as we go forward, there may be more attendance at other meetings. So for tonight's meeting, I'm going to be the technical moderator, but the commission will be using its usual meeting format. I would just remind the chair and the board members we'll be doing a roll call at the beginning just to confirm who's here this evening for the meeting. And then any items we have on the agenda, I think Glenn, myself, and Caitlin will speak to how we're dealing with each of those items. Some of this is procedural in nature because we have to cover notice for items, legal notice for items, and there's other processes that have to be followed. We obviously have some unusual circumstances right now with the COVID-19 situation that prohibit in-person physical meetings or hearings. So we're taking our processes online. So I'm going to be essentially muting folks except for the commission members. And I would ask folks, even commission members, to mute themselves unless you're actually speaking. That'll just help out with any echo issues. And then if any folks are having any technical issues or have a need to chime in for some particular reason, use the chat box, please. That'll help me to keep an eye on if anybody's having any problems or how we can address those. But in general, I'll hand off to the chair to run the meeting as normal and run through the agenda items, and I'll be here to assist from a technical perspective, pulling up materials on the screen if those are helpful.
Uh-oh. I hope we didn't lose you, Andy. Oh, looks like you're muted now, but your last word or so was, oh, and Malcolm has joined. Good. So it's 7:04, so I want to start. Andy, looks like you got muted again.
Glenn, can you hear me?
Yep, now I can.
Okay, yeah. Right.
Okay, well, were you done, Andy? Because if you are, then we can call the meeting to order.
Yep, yeah, I'll leave it to you. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, this is Glenn Richards, chairperson of the Newburyport Historical Commission on Thursday, April 9th. It's now about 7:04, and we're calling the meeting to order. And I'm going to start by doing the role of the attending commissioners. I see Patricia Pecknick, our vice chair. Malcolm just joined. We probably can't hear you yet. I see it says we're still connecting your audio, but I see you're in the process of joining. Christopher Fay and Ron Ziemba. So that makes the four of us, actually five. Let me see. Ron, Patricia, Malcolm, Chris, and me is five.
Join the meeting.
I think that was probably Malcolm. All right. So as Andy was saying, we're going to try our best to run this meeting as a virtual e-meeting. There may be a few glitches, but we'll try our best. There was, right off the bat, I have to let everyone know that although there were a couple of potential public hearings scheduled for tonight, those have to be rescheduled due to an issue around proper public notification. That, kind of a last minute glitch we discovered. So we're going to try to get as much business done as we can, but we won't be doing public hearings because they have not been properly notified. By the way, Andy, if any of this is not correct, by all means, let me know.
Sure, thank you.
So, okay. So without further delay then, let's get into the agenda. The first one is 35 Oakland Street. It's J&M Contractors, represented by Lisa Mead, who I know is on the call, representing them. This is a application for the demolition of an outbuilding. So all we really need to determine tonight is the historical significance or lack of it for this outbuilding. I am assuming my fellow commissioners, as well as myself, I know I've looked at the application, but before I turn over to the commissioners, I'll ask you, Lisa, if you have anything you want to say about it, I'll give you the opportunity to do that if you'd like.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And for the record, Lisa Mead, Tellerman, Costa 30 Green Street on behalf of J&M Contractors. I was wondering, are we going to put the plans on the, or at least the sketch or the application materials on the desktop, Andy or Caitlin?
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to do that. Unfortunately, for some reason, my computer is having an issue with a connection to that. So I was checking with Caitlin. I'd ask either Caitlin to chime in, or if Lisa, if you have that document available, I'm happy to hand over the graphic to you.
I can share the screen, but you're going to need to take your agenda off.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. We're seeing the plot plan.
Great. There we go. So I think this is probably the easiest way to describe this. So this is 35 Oakland Street, which has a 2-family house on it. In the rear, you can see my cursor there, is something they call a garage here. It's not really a garage. If you look at these photographs, sorry, they're sideways, but you can see that it actually won't fit a garage, I mean, a car. This is the front here, and this is the back. So it's basically a shed that is more than 100 years old. It's not listed as contributory. It's not on the data sheets. It appears on the 1900 assessor's map. And so that's how we have an age of it. It's probably constructed around 1850, 1875. There's no Form B. It's approximately 10 by 18 feet. It's composed of both old and new materials. You can see this plywood here. It's been rebuilt and built a number of times. There's the front of it. And then you can see there's some, obviously it's falling apart. There's a significant difference. Here's the poured cement inside. Here's some new timbers. You can see there is some old material in here a little bit. But it's essentially a mishmash of old and new materials, and basically coming down in any event. So the application is to request that you declare it not historically significant and allow the applicant to remove it. It does not have a foundation, by the way. It just has that poured concrete, and you can see this, the bottom is splaying out as well.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. So members of the commission, we don't have the hand raise feature, but if you should have the capability to unmute yourself if you would like to make a comment or anything, and we'll.
Are we muted, Glenn?
Nope, I just heard you.
We are. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think this is a really cool old. I mean, I take it to be a garage rather than a shed because of the dimensions of the 10 feet by 18 feet. It's got the tall, wide doors that would have fit something, maybe not a car back in the day. And its lot location at the end of what was probably the old driveway. To me, it's not beyond repair. I wish it were mine. I'd make it into my studio or workshop. I think it's really cool, too big for a garden shed. But yeah, I wouldn't object if it were removed. My assumption is that, well, one, it does block access to the yard, so I can understand the desire to remove it. The location doesn't really make sense for backyard use though. But I also assume that maybe there's going to be an application in the future about this property, and that this might have something to do with some other work. I'm not sure what that is, but I think it's cool. It's too bad that we lose these. This is one in a long line of outbuildings that, they're not properly repaired or maintained. And then, of course, we end up saying, well, it wasn't maintained, so demolish it. But anyway, I'm a fan of this particular building. I don't know if Mr. Fay looked at it. I know he sometimes likes to see these garages and outbuildings too. Chris, did you get to see it?
Yeah, I looked at it. It just looks like another example. Like you said, I agree with you that it sort of has been neglected over the whatever number of years. So I'm not opposed to coming down. It is kind of sad, but I think that we have to be maybe a little bit more realistic in the last few weeks than, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, Ron or Malcolm, do you have any comments? While waiting for your reply, I'll say that my feelings are very similar to Chris's and Patricia's, in that, it is a shame to lose some of these older outbuildings. In this case, I think it sounds like we're leaning towards that it may be historically significant, but not preferably preserved. But let me just shut up for a minute so we can see if Malcolm or Ron has anything to say. Ron, you're muted, so if you do have anything to say, you'll need to unmute yourself.
I'm sorry. I thought, can you hear me now?
Yep, we can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking at one of the photographs, Lisa, and it's the one with the white picket fence in it. Does that tell you which one it is?
Yeah,
And
I think I have it on the screen.
okay. It looks like this structure not only is in the backyard, but overwhelms the backyard because it looks like the property of the house next door is marked by that white picket fence. Am I right?
Yeah, actually, if you look at this photo, I don't know if you can see that, Ron, or not, but it does
Yes,
go.
I can.
It's probably 2 feet or 1.5 feet away from the picket fence next door.
No, not that picket fence, the white one to the right.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that separates the backyard and goes over to the opposite direction.
Yeah,
Right.
so that's still this. Correct me if I'm wrong, Lisa, but that confused me a bit at first too. But I understand that that fence is entirely on the property. It just separates two kind of sections off, two areas of the same property, right?
I see.
That's correct.
Okay.
I see. So the structure we're talking about is entirely on the property of 35 Oakland Street.
It is.
Okay. I had the same reaction as Patricia when I first saw the front of it. I said, "Ooh, how cool is that?" But when you look at the back and the east side, especially, and I did not see the inside, but from the photographs, the inside is in really tough shape too. So I would have no problem passing on this.
Okay. I'd love to entertain a motion if someone would like to make one.
I make a motion that it's historically significant, but not preferably preserved.
I'll second.
Okay, it's seconded. So for the voting, I think the easiest way might be, well, let me just do one at a time. So Patricia?
Yes.
Okay, and Chris?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Yes as well. Malcolm, I don't know if you're there or not. I see at least one phone. Okay, there you are. Are you able to either say something or put something in the chat? I'm not sure. I see you're in the meeting. Okay, well, we may have to go without Malcolm's vote, but we have 4 anyway. So Lisa, yeah, we'll notify the building commissioner that the demo permit can be issued as it's not preferably preserved.
Thank you very much.
Okay, just may make a note here. Okay, all right. Thank you very much, and thank you for stopping sharing. I don't think we need to put up the agenda again. And the next item is also a determination of historical significance for 37 Reservation Terrace. This is a Plum Island residence. It is not in the DCOD zone or anything like that. It's out the north end of Plum Island. It's, well, I'll refrain from my characterization of it, but it's an interesting building. Lisa, do you have any comments you'd like to make before the commission considers whether it's historically significant?
I do, thank you. And with me this evening is Eileen Graff, who is the architect on the project. Again, for the record, Lisa Mead, Tellerman Costa, 30 Green Street, on behalf of the McTitas. Oh, great, Andy, you have the plans. That's super. So they're proposing to renovate this single-family residence, which is on the island. It was the first part of it, and I think that's important to understand, was built around 1920. There is no Form B, and it's not listed on the district data sheets. The assessor's card, interestingly, describes it as conventional in 1969. They also refer to it prior to that as a cottage. It has had a number of additions added on to it over the years. And what I'm going to do is turn it over to Eileen, and perhaps, Andy, you can scroll down to the the plans. The first plan set would be the existing conditions, and Eileen can outline the, there you go, essentially where they're going to be making the changes, and then we can show you what the, so we basically will have a roof line change and a bit of a fill in on the front. So Eileen, if I could turn it over to you. I think she needs to be unmuted, Andy.
Yeah, Eileen, if you can hear me, this is Glenn. You can do that yourself. I'm not sure if you need to do it yourself. It's, yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the board. So looking at this existing elevation drawing, probably the front elevation is the easiest to start with. So if you look to the bottom right of that front elevation, there's a one-story sunroom there. And best seen if you go to number 2 of this same drawing sheet, you could see a one-story element there with a rectangular window. And then right above that, on this same side elevation, you can start to see the void, and it might be easier in plan, Andy, if we could flip actually to plan real quick. And you could see in that top right corner of the floor plan of the house, it says sunroom converted. That space there is a one-story space that I was just referring to in elevation. And then the area right where the notation of sunroom converted condition to living space, that is the area on the second floor that is a void, or it currently exists as a deck, which that's the corner on the second floor that we're proposing to fill in and close this pure rectangular form on the second floor. So that is what's triggering a roof line change. And if we can flip back to the elevation you started with, Andy. Great. And number 2 of that drawing is also a great location to see the sort of evolution of this building. You could see this, the one-story aspect in the lower level. The way they developed or added on to this building is they literally put the second floor on top of the existing first one-story roof. So it still exists inside there between the floor systems. So you'll see the second floor sliders in that second image there is much higher than it needs to be, but it's because they just encased this sloped roof within the 2 floors. But that starts to just suggest what it used to be. But again, in that second drawing there, you could see if you follow the roof line edges, there's sort of this quirky little abrupt end at the peak, and that's the area that we're gonna then clean up and extend to be just a pure gable right in that corner. On the switching back to the number 1 drawing, there's, you can see to the left of the one-story space, there's a front entry deck, and that area there will get enclosed with a one-story space. Exactly, thank you. And that area will get filled in as well with some living space and in a one-story aspect. And then if we drop down to number 3 on the rear elevation, you will see an existing deck. And that deck that you see there will actually be shortened, modified to be shallower, only 6 feet deep, as opposed to approximately now it's about 10 feet deep. And it's going to have a covered roof so that on the second floor we can then walk out to the roof of that. So that's the modification on the rear. And actually, it does, if you look at the site plan, it does cross the property line, but there is an easement that allows them to do it. But the shallowing up of the deck was an effort to try to bring more of the property onto the true property. So can we flip to the proposed elevations, Andy? So here we can see it as we're proposing. So starting on the first drawing, on the top level, you can see the 2 sets of sliders there. And that's with the idea that the left side, that gable end is the same. And it's what we're doing is just filling in that right side corner and cleaning up the roof line, which you can see on the second drawing where there's a triple 6/1 set. That's the corner that was once an exterior deck, and now it's enclosed space. And then the space right below, exactly as Andy has it, that area there is that single-story sunroom that we are modifying and stretching a little bit more to a 1-story space with a 2nd-story deck space above it. And then if you drop down to number 3 on that same drawing, you'll see to the rear that modification on the rear deck, which is, again, a smaller footprint of a deck, but with a 2nd-story aspect, that'll be just a small roof deck from the 2nd floor. Thank you.
So thank you, Eileen. So with that, I think that our request is that the board find that while this is a unique property, perhaps it's not historically significant, and the roof line changes as proposed can be approved.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. And thank you, Eileen. Appreciate that. Fellow commissioners, anyone have a comment or?
Yes, Glenn.
Yeah, go ahead. Who's speaking first? Sorry, I interrupted somebody.
Yeah, Ron.
It's Ron.
Go ahead, Ron.
Just a question. The overall height of the structure is unchanged. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Was that it, Ron?
Yeah.
Okay, Patricia?
Oh, it's a very nice house sandwiched between 2 oversized, overbuilt houses. I think the changes will be an improvement, but we're not there yet. To me, it is historically significant.
Okay. Chris, any comment from you?
Yeah, it's hard for me because I think it's very informative to see that drawing where you can kind of see where the cottage was, if I'm reading that correctly. So I feel like it was at one time. I know this is not what we're supposed to do, but at one time it may have been significant, but it just looks like another one of those messy situations. So I agree with Patricia. I think that the drawings are a vast improvement on the house. So it's too bad again that somebody plopped like a 2nd floor on top of that. But so technically, I think it's historically significant, but I wouldn't stand in the way of the improvements.
Okay.
Glenn, I should have added to my comment that I didn't see the structure as historically significant.
Okay. Thanks, Ron. 1 second. I have a question for either Eileen or Lisa, whoever might know. In the plans that we're looking at right now, these elevations, number 2, there's a dotted line. Eileen, can you tell me what that represents?
Inside in the interior space, sorry, that was left over of me, sort of understanding the space inside. That's the roof, the ceiling. It was on that left side where it's angled. It was following, the ceiling is following the roof rafters of what's underneath there. So that was just letting me know what was happening inside.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, we are not, how should I put it, allowed? We don't concern ourselves with the interior. I was just curious as to whether that weirdness of the interior was one of the things that will be cleaned up with this renovation. I'm imagining the answer is yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So for Chris and Patricia, are you suggesting that it be historically significant but not preferably preserved as is, so that the applicant can, would move on to a public hearing about it, potentially approving their plans with, either as is or with possible changes?
Yeah, I would agree with that statement.
Okay. Would either of you care to make a motion?
Mr. Fay, why don't you make the motion?
Well, I was going to say Glenn just made the motion, but
Oh, he did.
So I'll make a motion that it is historically significant but not preferably preserved.
Okay, is there a second? Someone will need to
No.
second it. I'm surprised I'm not hearing from Patricia seconding
Yes,
it.
okay, yes.
Oh, okay. Patricia. Okay, so those in favor, I assume, Chris, in favor?
Yes. Yes.
Patricia,
Yes.
in favor? Ron?
No, I'm voting no on
Not.
that.
Okay. And let's see, we still aren't able to hear from Malcolm apparently. Gee, I guess I have to make up my mind, don't I? Well, I don't really think it's historically significant, to be honest. But I'm willing to support this particular motion anyway, because just to keep things moving along, so we can proceed. Hang on a second. Let me think about this. Is there either Andy or Gretchen? What if we have less than a quorum in favor? Does the motion fail?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. All right. Well, so then regardless of which way I vote, it fails. So, Ron, you could make a motion to declare it make a motion that it is not historically significant.
Okay, I move that the structure is not historically significant.
All right. And I'll be
You
one
had
to
a vote
second that.
on the table.
Yeah, it was voted down.
Okay. So go ahead.
I'm sorry, Gretchen. That was Gretchen, right?
Yes. So you
Yeah.
decided to vote against it?
Yes.
So it's 2-2.
Well, even, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that. I was a little too verbose there. All right, so now the motion on the table is that it's not historically significant. We have 2 yays, myself and Ron. Chris?
No, sorry.
All right, so we have okay, sounded like a no from Patricia and a yes from Chris. Is that right?
I didn't vote yet.
Oh.
So you're asking me if I don't think it's historically significant. So
the motion is that we find it not historically significant.
And then you release it for demolition and whatever, and then there's no, then it's over, right?
Who seconded the new motion?
I did, Gretchen.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I think it's, I don't know. I don't want to be a stick in the mud, but I made a motion that it was historically significant, so I'm not inclined to change that.
Okay.
30 seconds later.
Entitled to do that.
Mr. Chair, could I just pop in here for a minute before you finish that vote? Would you mind?
Well, I think we actually did finish it.
Yeah,
Right?
I mind. Yeah.
It was 2-2, but you can say something now if you want, Lisa.
Well, I'd like the board to reconsider that the original house for sure was 1920, but there's nothing left of the original house. It was added on to a number of times. And so I certainly agree that if it were still a cottage, and that there wasn't the second floor added onto and the various appendages added onto it, that it might be considered historically significant. But it has been changed, and it's not the same house that was built in 1920. It's different than that house, and the later added additions are certainly not historically significant. So what I would request the board to reconsider their last vote that it is not historically significant.
I think the irony, though, is that if we look at any structure that has had additions or changes as not being historically significant, it is odd then that people present plans to make additions and changes to buildings now, arguing that they will maintain their historical integrity. For me, it's historically significant, and we've already voted.
If I could, I don't think any of us said that it was going to retain its historic integrity. We said that it still fits within the house, that it, you know, it fits within the neighborhood. Actually, it's better than many of the houses in the neighborhood, and it's appropriate for the lot that it's on. So I don't think anybody in this particular instance is attempting to copy or continue to make a house historically significant, which clearly doesn't exist as what its original house.
Maybe it wasn't clear from that particular motion whether I believe I think it was Patricia that made the motion. It might have been Chris. Historically significant but not preferably preserved.
Yes, I made the motion. That's the motion that I made.
Okay.
So,
Right.
I mean, I think Patricia and I won't speak for Patricia, but I think that we're okay with all of the changes. I think we said that it would make it a better house, but I guess for me, I'm standing on the principle that now this is a cottage at the beach, and as I've said many times, it's not a captain's house on High Street, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't have some sort of historical significance. So we're not standing in the way of it. We're just having a semantics argument at this point.
Well, then I would ask the board to reconsider its first vote.
Yeah, well, hang on a second, Lisa. So Ron, are you okay with if we declare that it's historically significant but not preferably preserved, it would come back for a public hearing, and we could review the plans, and and either they could be allowed to go forward, or there might be amendments or whatever, but that would be in a public hearing format. So there would be a lot, but the at least that hurdle would be overcome. It wouldn't be, stop dead in its tracks and impose a demo delay and all that. Are you okay with that?
Glenn, can I interrupt for a second?
Yep, sure.
Because my wife just came in and said that Malcolm I don't know if Malcolm's shown up, but he's attempting to call back in. So.
Oh, okay, good.
So that might be your deciding vote.
Okay.
If we can get him on the line.
Glenn?
Yes.
Just a question. Chris mentioned we all agree with the changes. I thought we weren't voting on the changes here.
No, that's
We're
correct.
Just voting on the existing structure, right?
Yes, but there's three possible determinations we can make. One is that it is not historically significant, and that's the end of the story. There's no public hearing, no review. Second option is that it is historically significant and preferably preserved, in which case there's a public hearing and their plans are reviewed and so on. Actually, I think that's the option we're talking about. If we say it's historically significant and not preferably preserved, I kind of misspoke earlier. That would also mean that they would not have to come back for a public hearing. If we determine it's not perfectly preserved, they can go ahead without an additional review. So if it's historically significant and preferably preserved, then there's a public hearing to review their plan of attack. Again, it could be historically significant and not perfectly preserved, in which case there would not be a public hearing and they would be allowed to move forward. Hopefully that was clear to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would leave us all with one question then. I fail to see anything.
Malcolm's card was.
Oh my!
Join the meeting.
Okay.
All right, there you go.
We heard you, Malcolm, but
You sound like the voice of God.
Yep. Finish your thought, Ron.
I was going to say, I fail to see anything that is worth preserving in that existing house. I think the addition is great. It will improve the house, but we're not voting on that.
But Ron, Patricia, if you say you see nothing worthy preserving in the house, then you're saying it's this all the same difference to you if the house is demolished. So this is
no.
that we're trying to make.
No. It's not historically significant.
Right. That's the consequence of saying that it's not historically significant, though. That's the outcome.
Yeah. She's my understanding of the regulations, Ron, is that what Patricia said is correct, and that if we determine it's historically significant but not preferably preserved, then they can pretty much do what they want. There's no further review required. Doesn't seem to be any intention to tear it down, although in theory they could.
Well, on that basis and on that basis only, I would change my vote then.
Okay. So it sounds like you would like to see a public hearing where we could review, the plans and, comment on them, etc. Because that's the only other alternative, really.
No, no, I'm not in favor of that.
I think that was Lisa trying to get a word in.
Just a clarification. So if the board determines it's historically significant, but not preferably preserved, the applicant could go forward with these plans.
That's my understanding, yes.
Right. So as opposed to historically significant and preferably preserved, which means that we would have to come back for a public hearing.
Correct.
So there's a slight difference. So
yeah,
I think
well, that's a big difference, actually.
Well, no. I understand it's a big difference, but I mean, so if the board said it's historically significant but not preferably preserved, as the plans are presented, then perhaps that gives some people some solace in the fact that the applicant has no intention of demolishing this property.
Right.
That's the motion that Mr.
That's the motion.
Well,
That's
So
fine.
can I interrupt? So neither motion has passed. So can I make a new motion or ask Ron a question? Ron, would you support it's historically significant?
oh no, we lost you in mid-sentence, Chris. Oh dear. Chris, you still there? We don't have your audio anymore, but looks like you're still in the meeting.
Sorry, I cut out.
Okay, you're back.
Okay. So I don't know if Ron heard me, but would he support that original motion now?
Yeah, you need to repeat it because you got cut
Okay.
off, Chris.
So Ron, would you support the original motion, which was historically significant but not preferably preserved?
Yes.
Okay. So can I make another motion, which is it's not historically significant? It's historically significant but not preferably preserved.
I'll second that motion again.
Great.
Okay. So we have, I'm assuming Chris and Patricia are yes votes.
Yes.
Based on what you just said, Ron, are you now a yes vote?
Yes.
Okay.
Great.
And I'm willing to be a yes vote as well. And if we can hear Malcolm, let's see, Malcolm, are you there? Let's give a few seconds. Let's see if Malcolm can say anything. Not hearing anything. Malcolm, I see you in the meeting, but your mute thing is on. If you can hear me, down the lower left, there's a little mic icon that's mute, unmute. You can click that to unmute your audio if you're using the computer audio and would like to have a vote here. Oh, you're unmuted.
Now, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, I'm in agreement with Chris's motion.
Okay, that's a yes vote. So Gretchen, I believe it sounds like we're unanimous with a yes vote with 5 members, all voting yes on that motion that to declare it historically significant but not preferably preserved.
Thank you very much.
All right. So that applicant may then proceed with their plans and I hope that they don't. Well, I think the commission. The plans presented, Lisa and Eileen, we agree that they are an improvement over the rather hodgepodge of a building that's there now. Okay, moving right along. The next item is 3-5 School Street, so-called Garrison House. Lisa, correct me if I'm wrong, or Andy, my understanding is that there is an agreement to, or a request to continue this to the May 14 meeting?
That's correct.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'll go ahead and make a motion that we continue the matter to the May 14 meeting without prejudice. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, 2 seconds. So I am in favor. Patricia?
Yes.
Yes. Ron?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Chris?
Yes.
Okay. Malcolm?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Did I get everybody? Yep, I think I did. Okay, so I think we've got a unanimous vote there, Lisa and Gretchen, on continuation of the 3 to 5 School Street matter.
Thank you very much. Have a nice evening.
Yep, okay. Okay, and Michael J. Gray, 12 Harrison Street, has a roof line change. It is the final structure and property we're considering tonight. Is anyone here representing the applicant?
I am. Michael
Okay.
Gray.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Michael. Just make a note here. And we can hear you, so thank you. Now, Michael, let me ask you a couple quick questions, and then I'll allow you a chance to, say your piece. In the application form, it said that it has already been determined to be historically significant. I think you may have been referring to the fact that there was a so-called Form B, and it was listed in the district data sheets because of its age and so on. Is that in fact what you were referring to? Because as opposed to an actual vote being taken by the historical commission, or was it in fact, was it brought before the commission on some earlier date that I personally?
No, there was nothing brought before anybody. We had went in and talked with Jennifer about the renovations that we wanted to do, and I thought it was her that had kind of led us this direction.
Okay, all right, that's fine. And who is presenting now? Is it you, Andy? Can you call up the, so we have.
Yeah, Glenn, I'm attempting to do that right now. I'm having a little bit of a technical issue, unfortunately, but I'm attempting to do that.
Okay. All right, let me see if I can go back to here.
Hey, Glenn, while we're here, may I ask Mr. Gray a question about the age of the existing garage?
I couldn't say. It's
shed.
It's a shed. It's not a garage, and it's not. There's no date. There's no permit. There was nothing listed that I could find a date on.
Yeah, and this is Glenn. Patricia, I had a discussion with Jennifer Blanchet earlier today, and her best guess is that it is a relatively recent addition, and she was pretty sure that it was not within within the scope of something that the historical commission would have any jurisdiction over.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. And then this is the do you want me to try to do you want me to try sharing Andy?
Yeah, I'm just making that adjustment right now. Glenn, you should be able to pull up whatever you have on your screen at this point.
Okay, let me see. Where's share screen?
I see Caitlin's also offered to do that if that's preferable.
Sure. If let me. How do I
Okay.
get out of
Yep.
this?
Hang on one second.
I can just cancel this. So Caitlin's going to share it.
Yeah, just one second.
Okay. Okay. So let me see. So the we have to both so the way this works, I don't know if they explained this to you, Michael, that we consider the entire property, but in this case, the shed in the back isn't what we're really need to make a call on whether it's historically significant. It's the main house itself, which
I thought it was just the roof line change is what was triggering this.
Well, the roof line change is that's what's triggering the review. So the first part of the review is to determine, is the structure historically significant? And what Jennifer told you is, I would agree with that, based on what we can see in the historical documents, that it almost certainly is. It's
the main part of the house.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah, well,
I agree.
We can't we have to consider the whole house. So I know.
Right, even though the additions on the back weren't, they were done.
Yep. Even
Okay.
though the addition, yeah, it's
Or
clear
like-
that there were much later additions.
Yes.
That's, I mean, there's hardly a house in Newburyport that doesn't have that, right?
True.
But we consider the whole, the structure as a whole. And it doesn't mean, if you've been listening to the rest of the meeting, you probably already know that a determination that it is historically significant does not necessarily mean that you can't do anything. It just means
Right.
that what you are going to do gets reviewed. And so, it's not a cause for alarm, put it that way.
Not yet.
At least not yet. And I went by there. It's an interesting house. It's got a nice gambrel roof. It's interesting. Some of the plans that are shown show a house like in the drawing plans from your architect. Yeah, thanks, Caitlin, for scrolling down.
That's the existing.
Yes, this is the existing view. And for some reason, was there some reason that he omitted the chimney?
There's a chimney going back up, but the chimney's been demoed.
Oh, it has. Oh,
Yes.
okay. Because, well, how did it get into the photograph then? Because there's a photograph just above that shows.
No, it was demoed. We had gotten permission to demo it.
Ah, okay. So is that part of? Okay. So is that part of? I noticed there was a building permit on the window when I went
Yes.
by.
Yes.
So that's part. Okay. So you're doing some interior work at present, correct?
Yes, we're demoing the entire interior.
Okay. Well, the interiors are not our purview, but I'm just have to ask whether are there any interesting historical features left to be saved?
Unfortunately not. The house wasn't well taken care of, and a lot of it was, beyond repair.
Yeah, that's too bad.
It was too bad. But regardless, we're moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that explains the chimney. I was wondering about that. And so this is the existing, very peculiar roof line. If I can opine here, I'm kind of glad to see this roof line is going to change because it's very odd indeed, especially from that east facade, that east elevation. That's the one on the upper left for those of you who are following along. All right, so before I just keep babbling on, do you have anything that you would like to say by way of just a very brief overview? Because we're not, at this point, we're not reviewing your plans as to what you want to do specifically. The first decision that we have to make is strictly on the historical significance. So we'll move right on that.
No, I'm trying to bring it back to more of its original shape, as you would be able to see if you move to the proposed structure. I mean, that's really all I could say is that we appreciate and value the historic aspect of the house, which is why we bought it. So we're just trying to bring it back as much as possible. I have another step to try to get a garage, but that's the only change as far as foundations go.
Right. Okay. What is that? Is that a ZBA thing?
Yes, it is. That's next.
Okay. All right. And this view that Ken is showing now, kind of, you can see the views of the two roofs as proposed by Mr. Gray, where instead of that very peculiar arrangement of kind of half shed type weird thing on the right-hand side there, it's restored to the gambrel appearance from looking at it from either side, and also a gambrel style roof from the back. And it looks like, when you look at it from the rail trail side, it looks like that addition maybe at one point had a gambrel roof. Do you know anything about that, Mike?
I don't. I've got early pictures when we purchased the house, and from when it was built, that back roof was actually just a 2-story A-frame that tied into the gambrel. It wasn't a full 3 stories, which it is now.
Huh. Okay. Yeah. So lots of changes over time. So, all right. So we need to make a determination on the historical significance. So let me open it up to my fellow commissioners. Would anyone like to make a comment? Oh, and I will. Okay. I would say I would like to make a motion that it is historically significant and preferably preserved. Would anyone second that?
I will. I second that, Glenn.
Okay. So let's take a vote on that. I'll vote yes, obviously. Patricia, I assume you're a yes as well.
Yes.
Chris and Ron.
Yes from me.
Yes.
Okay. And did we ever get Malcolm back in? Well, we had him briefly, but we do have 4 yes. I'm sorry, what was that, Chris?
I think you keep losing them, yeah.
That's too. Oh, Malcolm, I see you're muted again. If you you can click your mic button to unmute yourself. I think it should work to let you speak again. Let's give him a second here because I can see he's muted. Well, we do have at least 4 votes, so it will pass then. So, all right, I'm still not hearing from Malcolm. So Gretchen, we'll go with the 4 yes votes we have. Chris, Ron, myself, and Patricia. Malcolm is present, but we don't have his vote because technical glitches. So Michael, what this means is that normally we might be able to go on to a public hearing tonight, but there was some legal issues around that. So we can't do that tonight. So I think the most appropriate thing would be for you to connect with Caitlin. I know Caitlin's in the meeting, so she is obviously aware of this vote and can help you as far as scheduling the public hearing so you can get your plans approved or commented on or whatever. And,
yeah, Glenn, can I just interrupt? This is Andy.
Yes.
If Caitlin, perhaps, and just for the general public as well, perhaps Caitlin, you could just confirm the date that we're looking at for that.
Yep, I believe it's the next meeting.
There was a lot of echo there, Caitlin. I'm not sure we quite. Did you catch what she said, Andy?
Did you hear me? Sorry, it was the. It's on the next meeting. I believe will be advertised for the next meeting on April 23rd.
Got it that time. Did you get that, Michael?
I did. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Well, very good. Very good. A couple. The only other thing that I have on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for March 26th. This was the very short e-meeting we had that Andy hosted, where basically we continued everything forward. I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve those minutes. Is there a second?
I'll second. I'll
Okay,
second that motion.
Okay, got it, Chris. So I'm a yes on that, and I assume you are too as well, Chris,
Yes.
Patricia, and Ron.
Yes.
Okay, Ron. Did we lose you? Where's Ron?
He's muted.
Yeah, Ron, you're muted. Can you unmute yourself so we can get your vote?
Sorry about that. I think I have to abstain because I wasn't at that meeting.
Okay.
Due to my own stupidity. And I feel like I should apologize to my fellow commission members for saying I was going to be there and then not showing up. And there were considerable extenuating circumstances, but no excuses.
Oh, there's no need to put on the sackcloth, Ron. And we don't have. Do we have Malcolm? Malcolm, we still show you doing the meeting, but muted. I'll try one more time. Should be a button or a thing you can click on or touch if you're on a pad. It
There's
should
a
say,
chat box, you know, you could
yeah, it's a little
type-
microphone icon that you should be able to click on or whatever to unmute yourself.
Yeah, Glenn, could I just add something?
Sure.
I would suggest if there's any member who's having any issues, I would suggest following up with Caitlin. She and I have been working together with the rest of the staff on these online meetings. So if we could try to work out any technical issues any individual members are having beforehand, we'll work with you offline. Thanks.
Okay. So Andy, technical or legal question, if we only have 3 positive votes, it's not a quorum. So should we just continue the approval of those minutes till the next meeting, or can?
Yeah, there's no issue with putting that on the next agenda if you'd like to. I'm not sure what the connection issue is at the moment, but you can certainly carry that over to your next agenda.
Yeah, does that make sense to you, Gretchen?
It's
Yeah.
okay. Because Peter was the other member who was there.
Right, and he's out. He couldn't make it tonight. He apologized
Doesn't
profusely. He's
really-
wearing the sackcloth as well. Okay. All right. So we'll carry that one forward, Gretchen, and we'll get that done. We can probably do that one in the minutes for the March 26th meeting as well.
And tonight.
And tonight. Well, great. Speaking of minutes, Andy, what happens to the recording of this, if anything?
Yeah, so this meeting is being recorded. We are providing that to Port Media, or the Hub, I guess they go by. We're providing that to them, and then I'm also providing that to our office coordinator, Diane Bovair, who can also post that to our calendar, our city website. You know, and you know, the note taker, obviously, as typical, would have that for reference as well. So there is a recording of the meeting, same as we would have during a regular session.
I would like this recording destroyed for personal reasons, but no.
Sorry, no can do.
No.
Sorry, not something we could do.
Well, actually,
not our best. Not
well,
our best.
what we should do, technically, actually, Andy, it should be edited so that the recording starts when we started the meeting. If there was that pre-meeting, so that stuff should be edited off.
Well, yeah, the audio check is not part of the meeting. You know, that's before 7. But I would like to try to work out the connection issues. We're happy to set up with individual board members or collectively a board a test run of the connection issue. Obviously, not dealing with any substantive matters, but just deal with the connections. We have been improving what we're dealing with on this platform, and that requires some preparation in advance, as well as some particular settings on our end. And we're switching over to what's referred to as the webinar setup, which will give us a little bit, a slight bit of increase or better control. I also am recommending that the boards not use webcams during meetings, as I think those are causing some data connection issues, given that everybody everywhere is using the internet right now. And that's not only home connections, but also in the neighborhoods. And so forth. So I think anything we can do to minimize connection issues is the best thing to do. And that'll free up more space on the screens for the plans that are actually relevant and more so important, I think, than the webcams in the first place. So so hopefully things will settle out. I do think you handled the meeting well. And we'll just we'll play things by ear with future meetings. If there's any technical issues, you know, we'd have to reconvene or renotice things, but hopefully things will run smoothly and we'll be able to just keep things moving along.
Okay, and it is your anticipation that we'll be using the Zoom webinar next time, correct?
Correct. So it should look largely the same for everyone involved here, except that the main difference, I think, is just that the board members will be treated in a different category than the general public, as sort of panelists, I think, is the term that's typically applied to them in the platform. Yes. So what it does is just a little bit better control over the public comment period, and when the applicant wishes to speak, that'll have to be approved or authorized by the chair, myself as moderator, or Caitlin as moderator if she's moderating, just so that we have a little better fluid running of the meetings. But obviously at this meeting we had very little attendance, but that becomes more important when we have a larger attendance.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks, Andy. I would love to entertain a motion to adjourn.
I second.
Well, no one, that wasn't the motion. I said I would entertain a motion.
Oh, I make a motion to adjourn.
Okay. All right. I'll second it. How's that?
Okay.
Well, we two are obviously in favor. Chris and Ron in favor of adjourn.
Cut out again.
I hear you, Chris. Are you
okay?
Is that a yes for adjourning?
Yes.
Okay. And Ron is muted. So I mean, you need to unmute yourself to vote. And I applaud you for being vigilant about muting your mic. I know in my instructions, I encourage people to do that, but you do need to unmute so we can hear your vote. Hopefully you can hear me. Geez, what if we don't have a quorum to adjourn?
Who's on first?
Oh no.
Let's just give a second. What's the, let's see if someone just needs to hit an unmute. Who are we waiting for at this point?
Ron Ziemba?
Yeah, so I've just unmuted him, but it looks like he's muted on his end. I don't know if he's aware of that.
Yep. Trying to tell him. I don't know if you can hear us, Ron, but you need to unmute, or you can use the chat. If your audio conked out, you can use the chat too. There's a button down at the bottom to do a chat, and you can put your vote in there. Just
yeah, you could say motion
yes.
to adjourn or yes in there.
Oh dear. And Malcolm, same goes to you. I don't know if you can hear me or not, Malcolm, but you can use the chat window as well.
Yeah, if that's a persistent issue, I know you as chair can, in the present situation and the current flexibility we have, declare the meeting has ended. But I'd like to know that board members are having a convenient time connecting, and obviously the general public as well.
Yeah, for some reason it seems to be Ron and Malcolm. And I'm not, it may be the devices they're using or whatever. So yeah, we may need to troubleshoot that, at another time.
Yeah, I would recommend
right now,
definitely we coordinate wherever it's convenient, some sort of prep sound check, just to make sure things are working smoothly. I know each member, once you get settled in with something that works, I would recommend staying with that particular setup.
Yep. Yeah, we'll set that up. I'll give Malcolm a call afterwards, and
Glenn?
encourage him to set that up. Oh, I just heard somebody. Sounded like Ron.
It's Ron.
So Ron, can we adjourn?
I was a little premature in getting rid of this session, in fact. But yes, I'm in favor of adjourning.
Okay, good. We've got a quorum in favor of adjourning. All right, so we will officially adjourn. And Ron, I guess aside from being able to unmute when necessary, I guess your connection is okay, right? We can hear you all right.
Yeah, it works fine.
All right. So just Malcolm is, I think, the only one that's still got issues. I think he joined on the telephone from the looks of his icon there. He's maybe not seen the video. It looks like he dialed in with a telephone. Not sure why that's. Andy, just out of curiosity, do you have any ability to unmute Malcolm? You see he's on the phone there down.
Yeah, I have unmuted Malcolm on my end.
Unmuted.
Oh, there you go. We can hear you, Malcolm.
Yes, I second the motion to adjourn.
Okay, it's already passed, but that's great. Thank you, Malcolm. And Malcolm,
it's the most fun I've had all week. Everyone, thank you so much, really.
And Malcolm, if you've been listening, so try to talk to not right now because we want to end the meeting, but give Caitlin a call to see what we can do to get you a reliable way of joining the meeting so you can see the visuals and all that good stuff. Okay? Or
that sounds good. For some reason, my machine cut out of the meeting.
Okay.
But I saw everything, but then halfway through the Harrison Street, I dropped off somehow.
Oh,
and
okay. You saw most of it then. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, very good. So we are adjourned. And Andy, as host, you certainly have my permission to end the call. And I thank everybody for attending. I'm sorry for glitches, whether they were my fault or not. Hopefully not. But again, thanks for your patience in this as we try to iron out all these kinks. And hopefully over time we'll get better and better. We'll see. So thank you all. And good night.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank
Good night.
you.